When it comes to HubSpot, attract, engage, delight is the language we speak to. So attracting is all about getting those new people, whoever they are, those strangers that are a good fit for your school. It's about attracting them to engage with your content. So at the attract stage, as you can see there, we're mostly talking about ads, social media, blogging, things that we can do to draw people in to your brand. And hopefully at that point we get their email address, we start, we know a bit about them. So then we go on to maybe newsletters or prospectus offers and content offers. The idea is we're trying to convert them into a prospect, and you can see along the bottom there this journey that the people go on. So initially they're strangers. They could be in the stranger bit for months, years, possibly. And so that content and that ongoing engagement through the early part of their journey is absolutely crucial. Then we want to convert them into a prospect. We need to know about them. So we want to, I want to capture an email address. I want to know a little bit about this contact. Who are they? Are they bringing children to a school? Are they themselves the student? I want to know about them. And once we have that information, we can then start to get to my favorite bit of the journey, which is the engage piece. So in the engage bit, we're really looking at how we now know about these people. What are we doing to keep them warm? So we're attracting them in. Obviously, we're engaging on social media. We're keeping in conversation then. But then once we've captured some information, we can't just let them slip. And one of the things I found a lot working in schools and colleges was that marketing were doing the attract piece, and then they'd get an inquiry. So a family or a student would give their information. And then I said, so what happens next? And then, if they want to apply, they click here. And it sort of skipped a whole piece of this journey. What if they engaged on social media, but they're not yet ready to apply? And that was something that I think is quite hard to it's quite hard to sort of manage if you don't have a tool like HubSpot to guide them through the journey. So I'm going to delve obviously more into that. I can see there in the chat, any schools or universities in the Philippines you've worked with? No, but I would welcome an opportunity. So, not yet. So we then take the student or the prospect on this journey through engagement. And this is so important. You want to be keeping them warm. They haven't made their mind up yet. We want to be making sure that all the communications along this path, and obviously it's not as linear as this. Whilst they're engaging, they're also going back and engaging on social. And whilst they're having one-to-one conversations with admissions, hopefully they're still reading your blog or you're looking at your prospectus. So it's not as linear as this, but I think this sort of helps to show all the different touch points that you could well have with your students or their families. And of course, then the other crucial conversion point is the point at which they apply or register, or they start the formal bit of becoming a customer. You don't want to let it slip there either. I've seen lots of people who do loads of digital stuff at the beginning of the journey, and then what do you do when you apply? Oh well, there's a paper form or there's a PDF, and that gets so that helps. At that point, they just do this, and then it goes from being about the prospect in the attract and engage stage, and suddenly it's all about the organization. What about the prospect ones? Did they want a paper form? Did they want a PDF? Is that the right way for them to take the next step? And so that delight stage, it's really important that as you go through any conversion point, that we're continuing to delight, whether they are a new prospect, whether they're an engaged prospect, or whether they have actually registered and signed up, and you don't want to just let it drop then. And then I would suggest that all the way through the journey, the student's journey, the family's journey at your school or your university, that we're continuing to do all of these things. I don't think that you get to a certain point and we don't need to think about them on social media anymore. If they're engaged, they're engaged. So obviously there then becomes other communication channels open up. When a student joins the university, actually there's a lot more in the way of sort of internal communications and internal updates, and then eventually alumni updates. You can go full circle. And so what I'm really passionate about is helping education providers of all shapes and sizes do this better, so that their prospects are really getting the most from their experience with that brand. And I could see there in the chat, I'm super excited that we are teaming up with Get Creative to make this a reality, to really help reach schools and universities in the Philippines. Okay, so the final thing on this slide is remembering that even if you as an organization have a marketing and an admissions team, and then a student services or teaching team, actually that prospect or that family is on one journey. They will have been there from the beginning. So what you don't want is sort of the journey to stop at any point and change. So yeah, it's and we all know how important it is to once someone joins your school or university, to continue delighting, we don't let that slip. Case studies. Oh, we've got loads of case studies. We'll dip into that in the Q&A at the end, because I do have lots of case studies I can share. Okay, so often what we find, one of the big challenges, so everybody knows, or hopefully everybody knows, that marketing and admissions need to be aligned. You've got to work together because this prospect is on one journey. And everyone goes, yeah, we know that, but how? And one of the big problems that we see is that the different communication channels that we looked at there on that, the ads, the social media, and then the admissions conversations, they're all happening in different places. So whilst we know that the prospect is on one journey, actually they, if you're sending them, oh, this way to the website and that way to the open event, and oh, you want to go to social media, that's over on this platform. All of those are in different places, and some of them will continue to be on different places. But it's when the admissions data sits separately. You can see there my little folder up there in the corner. This is what I see all the time. This is not unusual in education. You've got your marketing and your communications taking place across a range of platforms, and they're really digital and engaged. And then it gets to admissions data. Where's that? Well, that's in this other piece of software right over here that we don't really talk about. Or it's occasionally still in a paper filing cabinet. We still see that. So the student data, the bit that you need in order to inform your marketing, is sitting over here, either in a virtual filing cabinet or an actual one. And this makes it really, really hard for marketing and admissions teams to be aligned. I'd almost go as far as saying nearly impossible, because if you don't have any data on your prospects throughout their journey, how can you possibly personalize their experience? We need to be personalizing them all the way along. I want that, as a family, I have a young daughter, I'm going to start looking at schools soon. I want, when I engage with a school and give them some information about my daughter, I want them to say, yeah, we know that. Oh, we can help with that. And not just the first time I speak to them, but 1 month down the line, 6 months down the line, or 1 year down the line. I want them to know, oh, hey, you've got a daughter. This is what she's interested in. We can help with that. That personalization and really understanding me, that's going to be the difference between whether I choose your school or another school. And we see all the time schools and universities and businesses actually as well, who say, hey, here's our website, we really care about you, and as soon as the prospect goes to talk to the school, sign up now. It's so intense. Just because I engage with you on social media doesn't mean I'm ready to sign up and apply. I think we need to take it right back and remember what it's like to be in that person's shoes. If I'm choosing a school for my daughter, first of all, that's a massive emotional decision. That's really important. That's her future. It could define her very path in life. Like, it's arguably one of the biggest decisions I could make as a parent. And likewise, if it's a university and students, it's the same thing. It's a huge decision. And it's also a big lifestyle decision, because, if you're looking at a fee-paying organization, well, then I'm going to have to decide, do we get a new car or do I pay for an education? Like, there's a lot about lifestyle goes into it as well. And of course, location and things like that. And then also the costs themselves. Like, it's not a quick decision. So because I've engaged with you on social media, please don't give me an application form and say, hey, here's how you sign up. Like, I'm going to need some nurturing. I need you to take me on a journey with you. And what we see is that, and we see it so much, and I understand why, because what we need is students. How do we get them? They apply. I'm not saying don't give people the chance to apply, but when they're ready, they need to go on that journey. I try and think of an example, like, let's say buying a house, given that it's so relevant to me at the minute. Like, I don't just walk into an estate agent and go in and say, hey, take my money and I'll just have that one. Like, there's been a lot of, even before I've walked into that office, there's a lot of journey I've been on in my head. Am I ready to move? Where do I want to be? What house do I want to live in? How much am I willing to spend? All of that has been happening for probably years, or at least months. The point when I walk into that office and say, hey, I'm looking to buy a house, is actually quite far along the journey. And is also I'm not just willing to hand over my money and, hey, sign me up, I'll have that one. Like, there's still, I want to shop around a bit. I want to know which is the right fit for me. And it's exactly the same in education. And bringing it back to the, the problem, I think, at the heart of this alignment between marketing and admissions is that you're operating in different places. Now, we do see a difference in, obviously marketers often have to be very digital, very creative, and it's more about one-to-many, like we just want to get out there. And then admissions, by their very nature, are one-to-one and more operational. They're taking people through a process. And so that, that is, we've got to be mindful of that. And often you get very different personalities in the different departments as well, which is right, it should be. But what we need to do is not let the prospect suffer because we can't sort out our internal operations. So we need to be looking at how we can tie up this folder over here with admissions data. We tie that up with our marketing efforts, and so that we can offer that personalized, really lovely experience. So yeah, we're seeing a real trend across the sector of actually, we want to do it better, help. We really want to do it better. And I think actually that the pandemic has led to a real pivotal moment, really. We know we need to do better, and we're more familiar with new systems now. I think, going online in the pandemic, everybody realized we probably need to be able to do this online. So that's helped things. Yeah, so how do we move forward? What do we do? So we've got to put this prospect first. So when you have these disjointed systems, the prospect is an afterthought. We put our website here and we do this way. Oh, and when you become an admission, this is how we want you to do it. It's all about what you want as a school or a college. But actually, it's the prospect who has the money and the child and or wants to learn. And because they're an afterthought, it then becomes really hard to make them feel like they're coming first. So going back to our example of, I'm not ready to sign up yet. So let's say this prospect here who I don't know who she is. She doesn't even have a face. But hey, so this prospect here, she's engaged with an ad. It's the first time they've come across your brand, and it says, "Hey, look at our lovely school." And she goes, "Oh, I've got a child. I need a school. Interesting." So she may click on the ad, or maybe she won't. Maybe she'll come back later and do something. And as soon as she clicks through, it just says, join our school. And whoa, I'm not ready yet. So she goes to your website, and on your website, join our school. And then they fill in a form, maybe it's download a prospectus or sign up to an open event. And on that form, she says, hey, I've got 2 children. We need a school who can accommodate their interest in the arts. Well, that data has gone off to this folder with admissions data in it somewhere else. And then it's up to the prospect to try and work out where to go next. Because, okay, I've given you my data, but now what? Because every time I look at any of your content, it just says sign up now, and I'm not ready yet. So it's leaving up to the prospect. There's a lot of responsibility on them. It can leave them feeling undervalued if the only time when you speak to your prospect, you go, sign up, apply. So HubSpot really helps to address this. We need to think center of everything. The prospect needs to see the relevant ad for starters. Then they need to see the right information on the page that they land on, either a dedicated landing page or on your website. And they need to be seeing the right stuff on social media that shows that you really do understand their needs. And then when they, let's say they fill a form in on your website, then they need to get, they need a personalized follow-up email that shows that you listened to them. And hey, we know what you might be interested in next at this point in the journey. Would you like to hear from another family? In fact, I love the example in here in the chat, actually. Do you have any case studies? It's exactly proof of this. People want to hear more. I want to know about other people you've helped. I want to know about all the happy children in your school. I want to know about, actually, is this a good place? Or are you just telling me it is? So it's about bringing all of these and the valuable data that the parent is giving you throughout their journey, bringing it all together so that you can offer personalized, seamless experiences between marketing and admissions that ultimately put that prospect first. And so, yeah, what we want to do is in HubSpot bring everything into one place. So there is one central record, Mrs. Prospect, and on that record, I can see the website pages that particular prospect has visited. I can see the emails that she's received and any clicks and any opens. I know that she's engaged because I can see it on her record. Any form completions, I want to be able to see at a glance every form that has been submitted by that prospect at any point in their journey, not just application. I want to see if they then picked up the phone and spoke to admissions because they had a concern about fees or whatever. I want to see that on the record. I want to see if they visited your school or your university. I want to see what courses they're interested in or what year group their child's looking at. All in one place. And this is not a marketing system. This is a marketing and admissions system to bring everyone together, because I think until you bring everyone together, it's so hard. You need that single source of truth. Otherwise, the prospect is on 2 journeys. They're going to marketing and then now what? Oh, I've got to go over to admissions. So single source of truth is the biggest thing that I recommend for anybody looking at doing this right. And this is inbound, right? This is providing value at every touch point. If you're new to the inbound methodology, this is what it's all about. Putting the prospect at the center, providing value all the way through the journey so that they trust you and they know that you're a good fit for them, but also that they're a good fit for you, and not just aimlessly throwing out application forms and hoping for the best, hoping that some of them stick. So I'm gonna bring us back to this. All of these different elements within this customer journey can be handled in HubSpot. That makes life so much easier. It will also give you really rich reporting opportunities. So, the head walks into your office and says, hey, admissions, I need to know exactly right now how many inquiries we've got for year, I don't know your year groups in the Philippines, but year 7 in 2023, please. No problem. We've got that report because it's based on live data and marketing data. Hey, I want to see marketing. I want to see how many actual enrollments your last ad campaign led to. Like, I know we've got the metrics of views and clicks, but actually, how many enrollments did that ad lead to? No problem, because all the data's in one place. But maybe you sit down your marketing and admissions teams and look at, okay, which of all our marketing activities last year had the biggest impact on conversion rates? No problem. All these reports are there because the data's in one place. I don't know how you'd run those without a system like HubSpot in the background, because you would just have data here and data there, and just to run a report is going to take you, ages. You're going to try and consolidate it and draw conclusions from mismatched data. And that brings me on to something that I say a lot. Typically, education-specific software, obviously, it serves very specific functions, and that's great. We need a system to manage timetabling in our school, and actually, the HubSpot may not be the right tool for the job for that bit. But then what happens a lot is that because a school or a university has a system for this piece of the journey, we're going to have to use that for our communications. Yeah, we don't really like the emails it sends out, but we're going to have to use it because that's our system. And so you end up not the right tool for the job. You wouldn't give a builder the wrong tool and expect them to go and build a beautiful house. Like you need to have the right tool for the job, and that will give the prospects the best experience. Let's step away from, in this system we have to run a report. No, in HubSpot you don't, because it's built on live data. You build your report once, and in future you can go back in and say, I want to filter, I just want to see this year's data. Or actually, let's do a quick comparison on last year's. You're not having to run a report and wait for some deliverable. It's there all the time in live sort of real time because it's based on the data, and that is very exciting for overstretched teams. So let's have a look about why this matters. We've spoken there about each time your prospect engages with your school or college, they need to feel seen. They need to feel valued and understood. They need to feel like straight away, this school gets me. I know my child will be happy here. The school knows that I'm not ready to apply yet, and they're just treating me with respect and guiding me on the journey. HubSpot then allows you to then send timely, relevant, personalized communications and automate them, which is a game changer, that talk to the audience specific requirements. So I have a child who's interested in sport and I want them to join this school, but I don't know whether it's right for me yet. No problem. HubSpot can then give you automation that says, okay, well, it's been a month now since this prospect last did anything. Actually, let's take them on a bit of a journey and let's send them this email with the latest sports fixtures and all the sporting achievements of our pupils. Or let's just, maybe then they're not even at that stage yet. Let's just share an interesting blog article on the importance of sport in education. Nurture them. You've got to take them on a journey. And remember that happy prospects become enrollments. They recommend you to their friends as well, and then they stick around longer. So by keeping your prospects happy, they themselves are more likely to convert, but they're also more likely to recommend you, and they're more likely to stay with you when you join. I actually think that in education, the sector does this quite, very well when it comes to students who have joined a school or a university. I think this is sort of inbuilt, particularly in sort of private independent schools and big universities. I think they know a lot of this. And actually, when they join the school, you have parent communications, or student communications. You'll have events. You'll have things for the current parents, which is brilliant. And I think the parents bit is not so sort of enrolled families is not where the problem lies generally in education. That doesn't mean it can't be improved, of course. But But the bit that I think really needs addressing and that HubSpot really helps with is that marketing into admissions bit, and giving those amazing experiences throughout the journey, and not just assuming that, well, they haven't applied yet, so let's just wait until they do. One of the things, as I say, that we see a lot then is the misalignment. This is marketing, this is admissions, and right over there is teaching, student support, or whoever it is that handles your students when they join. And we know that there's lots of reasons for this. As I say, different systems, different priorities, different personalities. For example, marketers need to be able to reach mass audiences. They need to get the brand out there and get your school heard of by large audiences. You've got to do that as a marketer. The brand has to be known. And then marketers have to effectively capture and then nurture these audiences so that your school continues to stay front of mind through the decision-making process, and addressing any concerns they may have. And then they need to seamlessly hand these over to admissions. So the marketing bit, they've got to be able to reach mass audiences. But then if you look at what admissions teams do day to day, it is very different. They don't really need to be massively involved in the early efforts. I think they should have an awareness of them, absolutely, and have input, but they're probably not responsible for. And then once the student or the family is ready to join, admissions need to nurture that relationship. It's one-to-one. It's, they've got to know as much information as they can to guide the prospect through the operation of admissions, and keep that good relationship and keep reminding them throughout that journey that the prospect has made the right choice. So actually they need to continue marketing or selling, but on a one-to-one basis throughout that journey. And then once admissions have done their bit and got them over the line and they've enrolled, it's really important then that delivery team, whoever they are, whether it's the head teacher, head of year, student support, student services, need to continue to nurture with the content. Here's a campus map. Here's a guide to what to expect in your first week at the school. And, that's likely to be a collaboration with marketing, but it's not always. It depends on the organisation. And all of these people, marketing, admissions, service, are all busy. Schools and colleges often have very small teams and simply can't afford to make mistakes in the process. You don't have time to be doing everything one-to-one from the marketing stage. And so it becomes harder, and that's where we get the segmentation of marketing and admissions. But remember, the more friction that you have in that process, the harder it is to recruit students, and therefore the less money your organisation will have. And yet we continue to see education providers working on different systems for marketing and admissions. So that's what we are on a mission to address. HubSpot can solve so much of this. It just needs people who want to work better, who if this resonates with you as a school or university, then HubSpot can help. I actually love the fact that it's not education specific software, because it means you get the best software and you tailor it for education, rather than perhaps not the best software, but because it's education, we use it. So just leaning a little bit more then in, and then it brings me sort of to the end of this presentation. CRM as a concept, so customer relationship management, and HubSpot have been around for a while now. But we are now seeing a global shift into the education space. It's typically a sector that, because it is quite different to maybe a lot of more commercial businesses, I think it's typically been a bit behind the curve in terms of technology, new systems, budgets, teams. And I'd say that even more so in the admissions space. I think admissions have been left behind quite a lot. And there's many reasons for that, which we probably won't go into today. But I think that it's really important that we try and pull all these teams together. I want to see marketing and admissions and leadership and admin teams all on the single source of truth, so that prospect, their whole journey is in one place. And I see more and more schools and colleges and universities by the day saying we need a better way to work, and I think HubSpot's the answer. Even just in the few years since I first implemented HubSpot, I don't know, 6-7 years ago in a school, and before that I'd done a little bit on it in a university, and back then it was like unheard of. It was new to the sector, and actually, because it didn't say we are software for schools on the tin, it was new. It was quite radical in the school space. Oh, you're using HubSpot, what's that? Now I'm seeing this shift more and more. People are saying, okay, we need this, we need CRM, we understand the value of this. I'm only going to see this growing and growing. And at the minute, you guys on this call and anyone exploring this at the minute is still ahead of the curve. If you embrace HubSpot at this stage, you're doing it before most of your competitors. And that is, you have a key advantage there. If your school or university is the one that's offering these tailored, lovely experiences because the software and your teams are aligned, then a prospect is going to choose you over a university that just keeps saying, apply now. It's getting bigger, and I think this is a real key time for CRM in the education space. It's now's the time to get ahead with personalization, effective customer journeys, a single source of truth, bringing everyone together, and it's the way that you can then stand out in a competitive education market. That sort of brings me to the end of my presentation. I've done a lot of talking, so I hope someone has some questions.
Thank you so much, Gemma. Yeah, I think even during your talk, a lot of people were asking questions already, and I'm sure during our Q&A, they'll have even more questions to ask you, because you did talk about a lot of things. I mean, it wasn't just admissions and marketing lead generation. I think overall, we really talked about nurturing customers, nurturing our leads, and just bringing in that idea of inbound marketing. Okay, so before we get into our Q&A, we'll take a quick 5-minute break. So I hope that's enough time for everybody to maybe do their restroom break. If any of you want coffee or tea that you need to get, feel free to get that. But yeah, we'll be back in 5 minutes, and I'll play some music for everybody. Since we're all here, and I can see in the chat that so you guys are also responding that you're here, we'll now go into our Q&A. And so much for food, since we did fill our minds with a lot of food for thought. Again, I'm going to call over Gemma Price, our special guest, the CEO and founder of Marketing, and also Sarah, our chief advocate here at Get Creative, for our Q&A. So hello, Gemma, and hello, Sarah. How have you guys enjoyed the session so far?
I loved Gemma's session. Gemma, really, thank you for accepting our invitation. For the guys in this Hug Meetup, actually, Gemma and I are both Lions. It's a special program by HubSpot for HubSpot partners. And just a month ago, we connected because I saw just a quick information about Gemma. Gemma's company, HubGem UK, actually hosts the HubSpot user group for education. So they're actually very active in their community. They run monthly meetups, and for the first time in the Philippines, in Hug Manila, we're actually doing a special session on education. And I thought that it would be a great collaboration between me and Gemma, the UK and the Philippines, to be sharing information about education. So for everyone here who you actually get a 2-for-1 price today, because you're part of Hug Manila, where you can learn everything local Philippines, but we're giving you an opportunity also to join Gemma's Hug for education. Later, I think Sam has a link for that. So if you are in the education space and you want to learn more about how HubSpot is used for education, please join Gemma's hug meetups also, and you'll learn a lot. And really thank you, Gemma, for helping us introduce more Filipino educators to HubSpot. Yeah, really
I'm
excited.
delighted, honestly, delighted to be here, and also to see. I want to learn more about Philippines education in the Philippines, because we do have clients all around the world. It is at the minute primarily in sort of Europe, Middle East, and some in Africa. But we've recently got our first client in Australia, which so we're sort of going further around the world.
Closer to us, yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's really exciting. I certainly, we live and breathe this stuff, and I think so many people in the sector want to do better. They want to use better systems, but it's about helping them to find the right way to do that. And it's also great to team up with another Hug and other Lion, because we can support each other. And I hope I will see you at Inbound in September.
Yes. Really excited about that. And it's really valuable, this type of collaborations, because the world is getting smaller and smaller, and really the truth is, with the internet we really can learn from each other's experiences. And we're really happy that you joined us today. Yeah. So Sam, I think we have some questions on the chat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to remind everybody that we have a Q&A chat here on Bevy specifically for questions. And if you have any questions, you can ask them there. But I know everybody here also has the access to turn on their audio and video. So if you do want to ask personally to Gemma or Sarah, just let us know in the general chat or in the DMs, and we'll give you a cue if it's your time to ask your question. But yeah, we do have some questions from the talk, during the talk, and also some new questions. The first one is, maybe we could go back to it a little bit. Someone asked, I think it was Anushka, she asked about HubGem case studies. So are there any specific case studies you remember that you think would be related to the ones that you talked about earlier as well?
Yeah, so I have something I can share actually afterwards, like a document that has some really pretty charts and things in it to show. But yeah, so many. But there's one in particular that really stands out. Is there was a school in North London, so in the UK. But they had, they're quite big numbers of inquiries, but it was for them, it was the workload of handling all of the admin that came with it, because they'd get a massive number of inquiries and then not be able to process them all, and actually only a small percentage would go on to become applications and enrollments. So they were spending a lot of time on the wrong fit leads. And then everything was slowed down. So I worked with those over a series of, I think, 6 months, and we just transformed how they were doing things. So we implemented HubSpot and trained all the team on it. We then we got them set up. So the marketing team were absolutely flying with it. They were doing really good sort of ad campaigns. They found that Google Ads was the best platform for their audience. I know there's a question up here about ads, but so yeah, they were running Google Ads, sending people to landing pages and capturing information, and then they had a series of emails would go out, all automated, following those inquiries. It was basically key members of the leadership team, so the heads and the subject heads and things like that, would then have video emails going out that were personalized-ish. So we know you have a child interested in art. Here's what we do at our school to support the arts. And there was a video with and it might have had a talking head in there from a student. And it was really nice content, really good. And they also, so that was sort of the marketing side. And then on the admission side, they basically brought full application admissions process into HubSpot. So application forms were held in HubSpot. That created the deal object, which if you use HubSpot already, you'll know about that. If not, then there's obviously implementation training on that. And then it would then have a funnel that would take that child on their journey through to enrollment. And then at each stage, so they'd select all the children that were going to be invited they had like interviews before they offered a place. They would select all the children, move them across to invite to interview, and then it would generate a beautiful personalized email that said, we're delighted to invite you on this date and time, and it sort of merged in all the fields. And it meant that, they're only a small admissions team and they're handling massive numbers. And then, I know that they, in particular, one of the big things for them was the reporting. Their governance, I don't know if you have like governors in the Philippines, like your board of governors who oversee the school, were always asking for reports. It's their job to know how things are going. And they just set up like governance dashboards that automatically email all the reports every week to the governors. So that's one example. We have dozens of them.
I think it's super cool that you really mentioned how, with HubSpot, you can track almost everything. And with tracking, you can also kind of filter the stuff that need to be tracked so that you can create the reports that you need to create. And I think for educational institutions, they have a lot of reports that you need to make, especially when it comes to admissions and enrolling students. So yeah, Anushka, I hope that was a good case study for you. But yeah,
Sam,
yes.
Sam, I wanted to share also like on the local side in the Philippines, maybe Anushka's like curious about that.
Sure.
So in the Philippines, HubSpot is fairly new to people in the education market, so they're not really very familiar with it. And a lot of our marketing engagements for most schools in the Philippines has been more manual, more traditional advertising. They go school to school, and most of the schools actually have partner schools that they work with. And the challenge is when COVID hit, a lot of the schools were stumped because they couldn't get like face to face with the students. So there has been a need for so sort of like putting the way they do things online now. And at Get Creative, what we've been able to do is actually help various schools, get introduced to HubSpot. Uh, Gemma's probably like the expert because they've done like really complicated and advanced setups for some of the bigger schools in UK. But in the Philippines, we've done several also smaller, even zero plan, free HubSpot subscription implementations for some schools. If you're a school that's you only have like less than 1,000 students, maybe a small Montessori school or even like a small preschool, and you're or a growing K to 12 school that's not even K to 12 yet, maybe K to 2, you can actually get started on HubSpot, like help at least getting set up with a proper customer relationship management system, CRM. So we're able to do that because HubSpot has a plan that allows you to like do basic reach outs on email, even do like tracking of your admissions, having a pipeline, and even tracking of tickets. If there are parents that complain, you can create a ticketing system so parents can ask their questions, or maybe they're having some challenges on the payment. I notice there's a payment question there also, and they want to check in with the schools. That's possible. So different stages of where the schools are, HubSpot is able to help. We have various subscriptions as well. So those subscriptions are actually just matched to the needs of schools. So I would imagine like Gemma, right? Like if you're a big university, you'll probably want the more advanced features of HubSpot. And if you're a starting school and you just want to make sure that you're organized, especially now that all of us are really just working from home or working remotely, at least you can organize your system. Remember what Gemma was saying earlier about how typically schools have these big filing cabinets. Now those cabinets can be put into digital. So that's, I think, the power of HubSpot. Yeah,
and we serve subscriptions all the way through from sort of, so there's the free tools, then there's Starter, which is a really good starting place for schools wanting to get on and see if it's going to be right for them. A lot of our sort of big UK independent schools, they're on professional level, which gives them the next level of functionality. And universities we work with, some of them are on multi-enterprise subscriptions, which are massive and you wouldn't need in a school.
Yes.
I think that I love also that you guys pointed out how HubSpot has different subscriptions. So I think for any school out there, there's really a perfect subscription for you. And with HubSpot, they can really customize it to how your current systems work or how you'd want to improve your systems. So yeah, we have a bunch of other questions. The other one is, does HubSpot have experience in dealing with the country regulations, if any, for education and finance related to education? And a follow-up question is, does it have local payment gateways and cash options? So that's, I think, a more technical question. If Sarah or Gemma would want to answer.
So, Gemma, I was thinking maybe this is a question with regards to data privacy, right? Like country regulations, I would think it's privacy. So HubSpot actually follows GPDR, so you can turn right, Gemma. You can just click that, and then you'll have the regulations in place, and you're sure that you get. One tip I would have though is make sure that you get opt-ins from parents before you start sending them your emails, and that's one trick that both Gemma and I'm sure are sharing with our clients. But the other question about local payments, HubSpot did roll out just a few months ago HubSpot payments. It's only available though for US customers. So for us in the Philippines and also in the UK, there are several, like Gemma, several integrations that actually connect payment gateways like PayPal, Stripe. Can do
this
that.
It's such an individual area. So, I mean, I'm very excited for when HubSpot Payments is rolled out globally, but I believe they're doing it in like phases because it's such a big operation. We work with lots of clients who have payment systems integrated. I think it's very individual. This is where, like, working with us or with yourself to understand the needs of that organization, because there are various integrations, with PayPal, with Stripe. We integrate, so like our accounting software, it's QuickBooks, that's integrated. It really depends on exactly what you want to achieve, what systems you're using, and there's lots there. That doesn't mean that necessarily your specific system is already integrated, but there's lots of ways around that if it's not.
Yeah, and I also wanted to mention that, some of the schools that we worked with really like prefer their payments to be more like the data on payments be more siloed in a different system. Typically, they have a different, maybe student information system that holds information about financial information of their students. The only reason why they do that is because they really want to make sure that they add additional layers of security for banking information of their students, and they want to have full control over that. And oftentimes in the Philippines at least, it's on site. They don't keep that data on the cloud. So that's what I've seen thus far. But what we've also done here is we've also been able to help some schools get access to some payment transaction facilities. Our favorite, I'll put it in the chat box, is called NextPay. They have a way that you can create actual payment links, so that parents or their clients can pay via credit card, via GCash. GCash is the popular payment gateway in the Philippines, or PayMaya.
It's like Venmo.
Yeah, and then it allows for online banking transactions also for parents. So like with one link, parents can actually pay their tuitions using whatever mode is convenient for them. So typically, because this is a third party, we're actually working with NextPay for an integration with HubSpot right now. But right now, what we try to do is we put it in as a CTA, as a call to action button, so that they get led to NextPay to make the payment. So I think in that sense, what I'm just trying to say is, oftentimes both Gemma and I as Hub Diamond partners, we really start first with really understanding what your pain points and challenges and your goals are before we even like think about what the right fit is for you. What we're trying to share now are just some examples, but I'm sure when we have conversations, we'll probably be able to solve, more personally for you and your needs.
Yeah, and speaking of, communication and having more conversations, I think Gemma, Anushka is also asking if she could contact you further to discuss more about HubSpot. So if you want to share your details or maybe your LinkedIn to her on via DM or maybe the general chat, feel free to share that. But also I just love
my email address in the chat. So if anyone wants to have a conversation following this, you are most welcome.
Awesome. Okay. And yeah, and since I love also how you guys mentioned how HubGem and Get Creative are now HubSpot Diamond partners. So it's really like two true lionesses here in our chat. But so much for this question. We have other questions as well. Oh, Sarah just shared her email also for Get Creative. So for the local schools here, if you want to ask more also about HubSpot and get to know more about those details, the technicalities of paying and systems too, you can connect with Sarah. Okay, another question from Gab is, for educators, what platform or medium has been the most effective way to attract strangers or leads, and what have been the barriers in converting them to customers? So maybe Gemma or Sarah, go ahead.
I think if we had this answer to exactly which is the right platform, I mean, I'm retiring to. It's that that's what we all want to do, right? What I would say is it depends on your audience, it depends on your unique selling points as a school, and it depends on the market you're operating in. So, I've seen it with, I'd say broadly speaking, that the schools in the UK that I work with see good returns on Google ads, and actually Facebook ads is dropping off for us. But I have clients in South Africa where that's the opposite. They get nothing on Google, but loads on Facebook. And actually, what I would say, especially if budgets are limited, you don't need to spend a load on ads. You could just be writing some good thought leadership content. You're writing blog articles and sharing them with the right people is one of the best and cheapest ways to attract new leads. So, there is no one size fits all, but I think a variety of methods and understanding your audience is the key with that one. And then the challenges in converting them, I think time for small teams, being able to nurture them and have the time to do that effectively seems to be the main thing I come across. So I think as well, understanding what content is likely to convert people and what questions. I think sometimes people don't know where to start. And so that's where myself and Sarah would come in and say, okay, here's where you want to be. Here's where you are. What are the questions that your prospects are asking at these stages? And then actually understanding that and getting the content out there.
I resonate that actually, Gemma. I completely agree. I think the first step really is trying to get to know who your parents are, who your students are. Where do they hang out, right? You find out where do they hang out. If they're more on Facebook, then likely they'll see your content on Facebook. If they're people who probably like browsing blogs, then you'd want to be able to share them. Maybe they're on YouTube and they love watching YouTube. So those things. I've seen schools in the Philippines even start using TikTok as a way to entice, to tell students about what they do in their schools. I've also I've had work with some schools as well that most of their students actually reply more on text. So it's a big part of like really understanding how to approach or maybe attract the right strangers is to first have data. And I think that's what I love about HubSpot, because you're putting all your activities into one platform that tracks all the touch points that you've tried. So maybe in the beginning of an implementation, a school will try different ways of doing things, like spend their time equally in different ways that they have a guess, like where their parents or their students are. And then maybe a month into the implementation, they'll have intelligence. Oh, so they like visiting our website. Oh, so they like seeing our stuff on Facebook. Then, we come back and we strategize. What is the best way for us to get their attention? The challenge right now with the advent of internet is really a lot. There's so much content out there, and you're trying to compete with people who have loads and loads of marketing money to spend for ads. And ads are good. I'm not really opposed to using ads, but you need to be also working smartly with the use of ads. You want to make sure that you're spending your money wisely. And like what Gemma was saying earlier, get to know your customers and then find out what the best way it is, what the best way to connect with them would be.
Yes, just echoing on what Sarah said. I remember Gemma earlier said that um the the people that we want as customers need nurturing. So before you send out the sign up now, enroll now forms, nurture your customers first, nurture the leads first, get to know them, what they like and what they don't like. And then from there, that's when you can strategize. So I think if you're looking for some advice or a quotable quote for today, that's the best one for me. Okay, we have other questions here in our Q&A chat. The other one is, this one is about LMS systems. So what are LMS systems and SIS systems that HubSpot would integrate well within the Philippines, and how would on-site support work if needed? So I think this is more for Sarah, since this is about the Philippines.
Yeah, so LMS, there's quite a number of LMS out there. There's Canva. Some schools even use Moodle, because Moodle is open source. There's also Adobe Captivate. There's quite a number out there. My challenge though is whenever schools actually want to connect LMS to their HubSpot instances, I always ask them, what is the need to connect your LMS to HubSpot? Because when you're thinking about operations of a school, it might not be really necessary for you to connect LMS because they're programs, and it's so what's important is that student is actually enrolled in your school, and then because they're enrolled, then they're probably gonna be at some point become your alumni, or you want to like convert them to become promoters of your schools or give you referrals, right? So their learning process in the school does not necessarily need to be logged into a CRM. So but that's just based on like conversations I've had with several schools. So I won't discount it. I'd love to explore more about what the intention is to connect an LMS. So for the other question, which is SIS, what I've found for most schools is here in the Philippines, quite a number actually develop their own in-house SIS, or they use Microsoft systems, and then they create their modules into it. And typically they put a lot of the personal information of the students in the SIS. So and they really like hard firewall that because of the personal information there. And I haven't chanced upon a school that really wants to integrate their SIS with CRM as well. So like my response to LMS, I'd love to explore the intention behind connecting an LMS system and an SIS system. And that's really where like Gemma and I, as HubSpot Diamond partners, that's where we come in and help clarify these things for you. Sometimes there's no need to connect other systems to your HubSpot, but sometimes there are certain tech stacks that you want to connect to HubSpot. So it's really just understanding the purpose behind it.
It might be helpful as well to mention that the HubSpot's API, so the way that you can build the integration, HubSpot's API is very available. Like there's lots you can do. The limits I've found in the sector where people do want to integrate is actually usually down to the other software that they're using, not HubSpot. So I absolutely mirror what Sarah has just said. Before we even talk about integration, what, where, why, how, there's so many questions to it that if there is a really good case for it, absolutely. I don't know, is ISAMS used in the Philippines?
No, not.
ISAMS
it's very
is the
popular
biggest,
in UK, yeah?
Yeah, it's the biggest MIS system for schools in the UK and quite a lot of Europe. And we're just working on the world's first integration between those systems, because now we have got 20, 30 schools all saying we really want it, because there's a very defined need. We're now saying, okay, let's have a look at it. But I wouldn't lead with that. And I always am cautious when you go into conversations with we're looking at HubSpot, but does it integrate with this? People can get a little bit sort of sidetracked from all of what it can do. And actually, most people haven't actually ever integrated that system with anything. So, it's very much understanding the needs, and if it is needed, then they're the conversations that we can help with.
I love it, Gemma. We're like connected because I paused there. I knew you were gonna talk about APIs. So yeah, open APIs for HubSpot.
Super great connection between the two of you.
Yeah.
But we still have other questions here in the Q&A chat, and one is about on-site support. So I think this is for HubSpot. How would on-site support work if needed? And have you had any cases wherein companies needed on-site support?
Yeah, in fact, I just got back yesterday from Bristol, which is about 4 hours drive from where I am, doing on-site support. When it comes to on-site support, first of all, I mean, right now we're on a call, and you guys are in the Philippines, and I'm in the UK. Like, there's not necessarily a need for on-site support in a virtual world. So that's the first thing, is that most of the servicing, because certainly that we do, and it may be very different for Sarah, but it is remote, because we're online. But certainly, HubSpot's technical support. So if you sign up to HubSpot, you've got HubSpot's own technical support anyway, which is one of the best in the world for their technical support. There's more resources online. Like, I love it when someone asks me a question, say, have you got any resources on this? I'm like, take this. And then also that's when you'd work with a consultant like myself or Sarah, who can actually guide you more sort of industry specific. On-site, if necessary, is something that's just defined based on the need, and certainly we offer that. I mean, the Philippines is a bit far, and I don't know, Sarah, what you do on-site.
Yeah. We'd love to get on-site, actually, if not just for the fact of like getting conversations with maybe the users, getting to know them better, getting to understand their pain points and what stumbling blocks they have with the adoption of HubSpot, but that, like you said, it can be done virtually. I'm just amazed because when I think about all the clients that we've served since this pandemic started, I mean, 80% of them we haven't really seen face to face, or maybe even more than 80%, right, Sam? But we have relationships and we're able to talk. There are other channels like Viber or WhatsApp that we consult with them. Like, they send us screenshots if they have issues, and then Gemma's on point with HubSpot service. They have a chat functionality that connects you to a real person right away who will answer your questions. Sometimes, the way they respond to your queries is they even send you a video of how to do it. So it's very easy. And then you can also, if you don't want to chat and you're not like that techy, you can ask them to call you and they will call your number, and they'll help solve the issue with you. So it's really amazing how for a system you can actually get support from anywhere, and then also since HubSpot is virtual, also it's sitting in the cloud, there's really no need to like tinker with any hardware. So it's really just making sure that it's set up correctly, and that whole process can be done virtually. I think for on-site, it's really just to help get to know the clients better, see their school, maybe meet like the stakeholders there personally. But in terms of having to support you, there's no real need to be there right next to them, really.
Yeah, so just to recap, on-site support is not impossible, but a lot of the work that can be done in terms of service is really available and can be done virtually. And I can attest with HubSpot's service because it's really fast. Many times the questions that I ask get answered in like less than 3 minutes. And you'd have your answer right away as compared to other support systems that make you wait 24 hours, 48 hours before you get a response from them with your simple question. But yeah, we still have a couple of questions. One is from Rochelle. And I think this is more of a recap question, just to highlight, the features of HubSpot. So, how does HubSpot's features help us in the educational sector? So, maybe some examples could be admitting students and handling enrollment.
Yeah, gosh, so many ways. So, firstly, I will say, obviously, there's different packages. So it depends what your needs are as to which package you have, as to which features you have. But broadly, some of the most popular ones that we work with. So taking it right back to basics, the ability to have a form on your website that populates the CRM. You can have a form that says, sign up for our open event, or whatever it is you're offering. They fill that form in and their data is entered directly into the CRM. That makes things easy. You're not having to input data anywhere. I'd say there's really good integrations, two-way integrations with like Gmail and Outlook. So for emails, just tracking emails and knowing if they've been opened and sort of handling all your communications in one place. That helps on the one-to-one side as well, on the admission side. Also on the marketing side, sending out marketing emails. So, mass emails to different segments of your audience. There's tools like what we call the lists tool that allows you to segment your data. So let's say I've got a pot of 1,000 leads over here, and I want to see which ones have filled a form in the last month and haven't yet been to an open event or whatever. So the ability to segment your data is really valuable. Then there's all the integrations with ads and social that brings it all together. If you're on professional, you've got things like automation then that just help you with your operations and communications. And then a big one is the deal pipeline. So you can at a glance look at all the inquiries you have in your funnel and see what stages they're at. So okay, at the minute we've got 20 students in this stage, 10 students in this stage, and obviously all the data on them together. That's some of the main ones, but there are loads more.
Yeah.
What
So
do you think, Sarah?
one feature that maybe you left it for me to say. My favorite is sequences, because typically for schools that run open events, because most of the time you need to have some form of an event where you engage like the parents or the students directly, and what we found, some of the more successful schools that use HubSpot for missions, for example, is after those open events, they have a list of parents or students that actually attended that event. They enroll them in a sequence, sort of like as an automated way to follow up on them. So the sequence can be personalized, can be customized in a sense that it can be a mix of maybe an email follow-up, or maybe a task reminder to call maybe after 3 days if they don't answer the email. And then if they don't pick up the call, then maybe another email to follow up with more information, or maybe some teaser so that the parents will or the student will respond. But once the parent responds, they get disenrolled in the sequence, and then your admissions teams can actually engage them because you've connected already. So I mean, you can do a lot of things, a lot of automation or productivity enhancements that you can do with HubSpot, and that's really what the power of like a system really can do for you. Like, instead of like having to do things manually, remember everything. That's really not possible, especially when you're dealing with hundreds or maybe even thousands of applications for your school, right? And you only have a handful of resources. So that tech automation can really help.
Yeah, so I guess what we're just really trying to say here is that HubSpot's features really make things up for you. No more spreadsheets. That's a thing I want to highlight too, because in marketing, sometimes when you're tracking down contacts, data of people that you want to turn into leads and customers, you have a ton of spreadsheets. But with HubSpot, all of the data is there, and you can utilize the data to create more engagements, create more conversations, and through different ways, whether it's through sequences, emails, landing pages, and all sorts of things. So yeah, a lot of features there for you to explore and try. We have a few more questions. Okay, so since we were talking about...
Can I take that question from Anushka? I think
yes.
She just, yeah. So Anushka asked, I mentioned about attendance in events and how do we track that. So Gemma was mentioning earlier that HubSpot can integrate with other applications. So typically, schools use Zoom as the platform to have these webinars, right? So Zoom has an integration with HubSpot. So when people actually get into the Zoom call, because they register to get into the Zoom call, that gets logged as an activity in HubSpot. So you know who the people who attended your session are. Even if you were so busy in the Zoom call, you weren't able to capture all the names. It's automatically flown into HubSpot. Yeah.
The
I
question
think
there on the
Anishka also
QR
has another
code.
question.
The question there on the
Yeah.
QR code. Another big event tracking one is Eventbrite. I don't know how big that is in your market, but
Yes.
if
Yes,
you're
we
doing a
use
QR
Eventbrite.
code, yeah. So you could use there's an integration with Eventbrite as well. So then you could use Eventbrite's QR codes if you wanted to do that.
Ooh, there. So that's super cool. And since Sarah did mention about Zoom and Eventbrite, I think other integrations, they also have. You can also integrate Google Meet with it. I'm not so sure if it's
Yes.
used a lot in the UK, but in the Philippines we use that a lot as well. So if, for example, you want to set up meetings with leads, you can generate a Google Meet, and it'll link to your calendar. So you won't even have to open HubSpot to check your meetings with potential leads or current enrolled students or parents. So a lot of tech stack that you can bring into HubSpot. We have one last question, and this is from Andrea, and she asks, "How?" I think it's quite a controversial one. How is HubSpot different from other known CRMs, maybe here in the Philippines or all around the world? So, what makes
Yeah.
HubSpot
I think that's
different?
global. That's a global
Yeah.
question because there's no
Yeah.
CRM that was really invented in the Philippines. You want to take that first, Gemma?
Yeah, I think for me, the thing that really sets it apart is how simple it is to use. You don't want to have any software that is clunky, that nobody really likes, and where you have to keep trying to get training all the time, and people they feel out of control. The system owns them, and instead of them own the system. So for me, the big differentiator between HubSpot and any other systems that I know about there is that it is easy to use, it's flexible. You want to track this certain property, just create it. It takes away the limitations that a lot of the more clunky software offers. I also think because they have the different entry points with free, starter, pro, enterprise, it makes it more accessible to more markets at different tiers. And I love that it's got so many integrations, which I know we've spoken about, but I think they recently passed 1,000 integrations in the ecosystem. It wants to make your lives easier, whereas I do feel like potentially some of them probably just make it a little bit harder.
Yeah, maybe to add to that, Gemma, I think what the real value of HubSpot also as a platform is it's not just a CRM, because it allows you to track the entire journey of your students, and your parents, from the time that they don't know you, they're still researching which schools to go. You'll know, like, what was the first touch point, where did they get introduced. You'll get that information. Time that, hey, maybe trying to figure out whether you're searching, and you're trying to nurture them, and then you're engaging them so that they actually enroll. So when they enroll, that data is there. After they enroll, you'll know, if you have some school programs and you're sending out information there, maybe memos for parents, you can do that on HubSpot now. Easy to be able to track that. And then at the to a point when they actually become promoters, or maybe they become alumni, right? And you want to create an alumni program for everyone who has graduated from your school. So it tracks that whole process. I haven't seen any system that does all that. There are systems that handle just admissions or maybe just marketing. But if you want to be able to see that whole journey and get relevant information that will help you make decisions to better communicate to the people that you serve, then HubSpot is the right one.
Yeah, I would just like to say I'm also a fresh graduate, and even my school doesn't have that system. So if there is a way for schools to really build more on their CRM and just really look into the entire journey, of their student, I think nurturing would be so much more than what it is now. Yeah. Oh, that's such a beautiful question to end our Q&A. And I just participating so much. Um, there's a lot of conversations that were brought about, and we're so excited and so happy to hear that you guys want to learn more about HubSpot and the integrations there. I'm so sorry for the barking in the background. Like what I mentioned, we have a dog, and sometimes our dog gets too excited. But just to close things off, before I go into our wrap up, since everybody is still here, we still have 27 attendees in the bevy room. I'd love for everybody to open their cameras so we can take a quick bevy selfie or bevy group fee. 3, 2, 1, smile. So just to wrap up, we do have a survey for this event. And Belle, our chat master, who's been sharing a lot of insights also during the talk, will share some of our links today with you. So if you want to fill out our survey, you can scan screen or take a screenshot or fill up the form, which is in our chat box. And we will give some hug merch to a few lucky people who answer form. Our hug merch is posed here. We have phone stands and hug tumblers, and we still have a couple of hug puzzles if you guys didn't receive those from the hug swags from HubSpot. So we still have those intact for you guys. And I hope you took the screenshot of our QR code, but if not, the link is in the chat. And we also have a post Q&A. So if you guys didn't know, Gemma is actually part of our Facebook Hug Manila group. And if at any point within March 28 to April 1, you have any other questions that you want to ask Gemma, we'll do a post there and you can ask your questions there. And I'm sure Gemma would love to answer them.
Sam, that's so perfect because I know there are some educators who registered, but they were actually in the middle of some accreditations right now. So some of the educators couldn't come at this time, but we told them we would send them a recording of this session. So I'm sure they would watch. That's their time to ask the questions to Gemma.
Yes, so we're very open here and we welcome everybody. Yeah, so if you guys didn't know, we're also recording the session just so that we could give those who signed up opportunities to rewatch it again and for you guys to rewatch it again too. If you would like to know more about HubSpot for education and marketing, we also have some additional resources for you guys here. A couple of the resources here are from HubGem Marketing, and there's also this thing I'd like to talk to you guys about, the HubSpot Education Partner Program. So HubSpot is actually helping schools and helping schools to learn more about HubSpot as well, and they have programs for that. So for all the educators here, if you would want to teach your students more about HubSpot, more about CRM, you can definitely do that. So I know Belle's putting the links to all of these resources in the chat as well for you guys to easily catch. There are also some toolkits we want to share with you from HubSpot. There's this thing called a growth grader. So for any of you who have websites here, especially the educational institutions or anyone here in general with a website, you can actually track data about your website using the growth grader and just really improve your SEO through the growth grader. So if you want to learn more about that, you can scan the QR code. I'll give you a few seconds. Or you can also go to the website, growthgrader.hubspot.com. We've used that also for our website at Get Creative, and we're definitely using a lot of the data to improve it because we're revamping our website too in the next couple of months. Another toolkit I'd love to share with you guys is the 8 steps to evaluate your RevOps strategy. So I'm not sure if everybody's familiar here with RevOps, but if you want to learn more about that, a lot of the companies are building their own RevOps teams too. You can scan the QR code or visit the link that Belle shared as well, if you're interested in that, for some of our educators here, to learn more about RevOps and RevOps teams. And for those who are interested, if you want to get started on HubSpot, and really begin your journey with HubSpot, you can book time with us at Get Creative. We'd be happy to help you get started here, and grow better really with your educational institution or business through HubSpot. There are a lot of ways we can help you, not just getting you on the platform, but really just onboarding you and making sure that you're well taken care of while using the HubSpot platform. So I'm so happy that our entire team is here. The entire Get Creative team is here. We have Lay and Gab and Rochelle. They're the ones who help out our HubSpot customers now. They're on our service side and innovation side. Lay is our head of innovations. We also have Belle. She's our chief curator, more than the chat master here, and she's also well versed in HubSpot. You can also talk to her. We also have Dea, who's part of our sales, and even our finance people are here because they use HubSpot too. So really, in all facets of a company, HubSpot is there for you. Our finance people, Rose and Princess. So glad to see you guys here. And for those who are interested to learn more about Gemma and HubGem Marketing, I've given you guys the convenience of putting their website here on the screen, so you can visit them at hubgem.co.uk. And then you can also join and be part of their HubSpot Education UK group by joining the link there. So you'll really learn more about HubSpot for Education, new perspective on HubSpot for Education in the UK. You can definitely learn a lot from that and maybe apply some of your learnings or strategies here in the Philippines, in the educational institutions here in the Philippines. Last but not the least, of course, this is still Hug Manila, and we still want to connect with you. If you're not on our socials yet, where have you been all this time? But we are on LinkedIn, Facebook, and on the HubSpot events website or the HubSpot community. So you can visit those links that Belle is putting in the chat. And you can join our group. We have a lot of updates there, and we share a lot of other things besides meetups. Like I mentioned, we have job opportunities too, and sometimes we give away swags and a lot of Hug merch. So if you're into that and you want to learn more about HubSpot, feel free to join us. Everyone is welcome. Even if you're not in the Philippines or in Manila, you're welcome, because even I'm not in Manila, but I'm in the Philippines. Yeah, that wraps up our first Hug Q1 meetup of the day. My gosh, such a great meetup to benchmark all the other meetups for this year. And I thank you guys for coming today. And I hope that you learned a lot from Gemma, from Sarah, and from everybody else here in the Bevy meetup. So thank you for attending. Once again, I'm Sam. I'm your Hug leader, and I'm also your host for today. And this has been Why Go HubSpot for Education, where we talk about HubSpot for admissions and market lead generation. See you guys in the next meetup. Bye.